Welcome back, everyone. This is a bit of a momentous occasion.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, so we've both agreed to watch 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, which is a very important piece of Disney pop culture. It has had, the movie was very successful.
Mm-hmm.
Aspects of the movie have been very successful. A lot of times, like anytime a 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea thing shows up, a lot of times the submarine will often take notes from the Disney version of it. Captain Nemo literally has gone on. I mean, literally, Finding Nemo. Where do you think they fucking got the name? It's from Captain Nemo from 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. And all of this stuff. It's a Jules Verne novel. Like, he's also the guy who did, like, Journey to the Center of the Earth. And, all of these hugely monumental science fiction works that literally some conspiracy theorists think are coded messages, meaning that there's actual real shit.
Oh my god, you have to be shitting me.
No. Jules Verne conspiracy theorist followers believe that the Earth is hollow and that dinosaurs are in there.
Bruh.
And I think that's because Jules Verne himself was like an adventurer. Like, he kind of went around and like got inspiration for his stories by traveling around.
Uh-huh.
I might be wrong on that. I'm trying to remember what I've seen in documentaries from years ago. So maybe I'm wrong about that. But yeah, no, that's a thing. Like it's kind of like how I think it was Plato did the dialogue of Atlantis, which was really just a story about don't be a frivolous asshole society.
Yeah.
Otherwise Poseidon will fucking drown your ass. And yet everybody eventually was like, oh yeah, well obviously the story is fake, but where's the real Atlantis, Pluto? Where is it? Tell us! And even to this day, people are like, when will we find the ruins of Atlantis? You won't. They don't exist. It was never a real place. But what I know it for and why it's more of a monumentous episode, not just because we're cracking open Jules Verne, not just because we're going back to Disney, but because we're going back specifically to my niche of Disney, which is the parks.
He warned me before recording this episode. He's like, just listen to me ramble. We're going back to the Disney parks.
Yes. So, Tomorrowland.
Yes.
A lot of people's favorite part of the park, just because the idea of it is so fun.
Mm-hmm.
When looking at it objectively, it's got problems.
No, I can agree with that.
It's a very tiny portion of the park. It has a wide mix of like different eras of the idea of Tomorrowland that have just kind of been slapdashed together because it hasn't had like a full wide refurb in decades. A lot of the innovative and like iconic parts of it are just gone. Like, the rocket to the moon, fucking gone. Space Mountain's still there, but at one point it was painted fucking brown.
I'm wearing I just realized I'm wearing my Space Mountain shirt today.
Yeah. Huh. The People Mover in Disneyland is still broken, and I still am upset about that. The People Mover is one of my favorite things in the Magic Kingdom in Florida. Essentially, okay, Kat, you know the Disneyland train?
Oh, I love that thing.
Imagine that up higher in electromagnets.
Oh, that's cool.
Going through Tomorrowland.
That's cool as shit.
Yeah, it's very fun. And in the Florida one, it actually shows a section of the model from the original like actual city model of Epcot.
Uh-huh.
And it's like all lit up and has like, lights that are representing moving cars and shit.
Mm-hmm.
It's very cool. But Tomorrowland needed shit. It had almost nothing. Its original idea was that, this is where people can like sponsor shit, right?
Yeah.
Like many of the original rides and attractions that are no longer there had sponsors.
Mm-hmm.
And that happened for a long fucking time. Carousel of Progress was sponsored by General Electric or GE.
Oh yeah.
The
Automatron, whatever.
The motorway.
The motorway.
Yeah, the motorway was Ford, but that never actually came to the park. That was in the World's Fair.
Okay.
But yeah, same kind of deal. There was Delta Dream Flight, which was a little bit later, but it was called Delta Dream Flight because it was sponsored by Delta Airlines.
Yeah.
And when they cut sponsorship, they just called it Dream Flight. Now it's Buzz Lightyear Astro Orbiters. And then there was man, Journey into Inner Space, which was about like shrinking yourself down and looking at the molecules of a snowflake.
Ooh.
And I think that was sponsored by like a plastics company.
You know, that's the first time I've heard you even mention that one.
It was the thing that led to Haunted Mansion's Omnimover system. They took that from that.
Oh, neat.
I think that was the first thing that it ever was in the ride. And then eventually, because the lines were so goddamn long in California when they built Disney World, they turned Peter Pan's flight into an Omnimover. So, and yet it's still one of the longest fucking waits at the park. But yeah, so they needed more shit because on the opening day, sure, they had some sponsorship stuff, but a lot of it wasn't set up yet. It was like the last thing that they were doing. I think they had one ride operational.
Ooh.
And no, two. They had two. There was also the one that you were actually referencing, Autopia.
Autopia, yeah.
Yeah. Which I think it was just called like the Tomorrowland Speedway or something in the original, because when it first showed up in Tomorrowland, it actually was futuristic because it was predicting the highway system, the interstate. Now, really, the only way you can justify it being in Tomorrowland is either A, if you made it super futuristic, which they tried to with the robot bird, or B, you play up that it's like, oh, well, it's for kids, and kids will eventually, sometime tomorrow, drive.
Yeah.
But it really just doesn't belong there, and it's shitty, and doesn't get the love it needs, and really should probably just be closed.
Yeah.
But we'll never.
It was pretty, when we did that, it was pretty rough. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think there was like a Disneyland cast member who basically said, if you want to get rid of the Speedway, you also have to get rid of the Finding Nemo ride, like the submarine voyage, which I'm like, and?
Yeah, I was gonna say, have you ever shared your story about like when we rode the...
Oh, it was awful. And that's actually important because Submarine Voyage is 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
Yep, like I do remember you mentioning that.
That is what it's a reskin of. But it wasn't there on opening day. I believe the lagoon was already built, but it wasn't ready. Mm-hmm. And in fact, at Disneyland, it wasn't even originally themed expressly to 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Like it I think it was still called 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, but it was kind of like in name only. Mm-hmm. And then eventually they turned it more into 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, and then the Florida one was just straight up 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, to the point where the Nautiluses were all Nautiluses. In Disneyland, they were the same subs that they are right now, just not colored yellow. And so instead, to hold people over, they had a walkthrough attraction of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
Oh.
And ever since that walkthrough attraction, there has been 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea presence in almost every single Disney park. There is in California, Florida, Paris, and theirs is actually way cooler because it's a walkthrough attraction where you're actually in the Nautilus and, shit happens that happened in the movie.
Oh, that's cool.
But 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea is a ride that I never got to ride because it didn't exist by the time I first got there. And that makes me very sad because it looked pretty cool. Basic because it was made in the fucking 60s, but cool. And I'll never get to ride it. The closest I could ever do is look at the VR thing that Defunct Land did. Oh. Which is a pretty good recreation, but obviously it's not the real thing. I've never watched the movie.
Yeah, I forgot you mentioned that.
And that's why this is such a weird episode of the podcast. I've never seen this. I know so much about it. Never seen it. For the longest time, it was just because I didn't have it, didn't have a copy, didn't know where to get access of it. I mean, I just didn't. I don't even think Family Video, when my family had that going on, had it, or at least I didn't know where it was. Mm-hmm. Probably in the numbered section, but I didn't know. Now Disney Plus is a thing, and it's on there, and apparently it's really cool. So, especially for a movie of the time, it was so influential that it's still getting repped in Disney parks.
I mean, I've heard the name drop like several times growing up.
Yeah.
Like, I just also never saw it for obvious reasons. Well, whole reason this podcast exists.
Because you're an ostrich with your head in the sand.
Yay.
But yeah, and that's the interesting thing, because if you like old movies, then you know it. If you like classic literature, then you know it. Or if you like theme parks, then you know it. That's a three-way cross, and there's probably more, too. I mean, if you like conspiracy theories, then you know it. Like, if you just like Atlantis, then you might know it. You know, books about the ocean. Like, if you're just an ocean person, maybe you got into oceanography because of Jules Verne's book. Or the movie based on Jules Verne's book. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of pop culture relevance there. You'll notice that a lot of times there's no Jules Verne movie coming out. And it's because, aside from 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, every single Jules Verne adaptation that I've ever learned about was not good.
Really?
Like, I think the closest one that I ever saw to being a hit was another Disney movie, and it was Journey to the Center of the Earth. And I believe it had Brendan Fraser in it.
Who?
The guy from The Mummy. The guy from Looney Tunes Back in Action. I hate you.
I hope all of you listening were just able to hear that blank stare going across my face.
How do you not know?
Again, the whole point of this is for me to learn about new things. Mm-hmm. When we were going through the list, I thought this one seemed interesting because it's been a while. I feel like it's been a while since we touched like a more classic movie, unless I'm misremembering.
Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
Oh yeah, that wasn't that long ago, was it?
That was like late December, early January.
Oh.
You forgetful bint. If anyone from the UK watches this, please let me know how insulting I just was, because I know the word. I don't know what it means.
Oh, wow.
I don't know the UK slang. I know fanny is horrible over there. To us, it just means butt.
Yeah, what did Scott call me? Let me know.
Bint. I believe it's B-I-N-T.
B-I-N-T.
Yeah, bint. I don't know if it's short for something. I don't know if it's like analogous to something. I don't know.
We're dumb Americans.
Yeah. I could just look it up. I'm not going to. So you have to comment. I am of a creative mind. I am very sensitive. I need feedback.
Give him the feedback.
I need to know.
All right.
We'll be back once we've watched this movie, and I'll yell at you to comment again, probably near the end.
Woo!
The motion picture screen explodes with unprecedented power as the two masters of imagination, Jules Verne and Walt Disney, join to bring you a shattering new experience in entertainment, fraught with fantastic beauty and danger, and to stay in your memory as the most thrilling sequence ever photographed in motion picture history, the terrifying battle with the giant squid.
Okay, so holy shit, guys, watch this movie. Like, I know we say it a lot. Oh, go and watch the movie, then, restart the podcast. But here's the thing. We are now back from the interlude, and I am saying once again, if you didn't stop and go watch it...
Go watch it!
Stop and go watch it! It's on Disney Plus. Right now, I'm sure it's other places. You can find it. It's an old movie. The DVD can't be that expensive.
Yeah, I'm starting with my thoughts right now. This is, in my honest opinion, probably the best movie we've watched for this podcast so far.
Yeah, it's real fucking good. Like, I had heard so many times that this was like one of the masterworks of Walt's lifetime. Yeah, this is some good shit. Like, it's like, I don't think it's like as, like auteur of an art piece as, say, like, creating Snow White to be the first feature-length animation, just out of fucking spite, most of all. Spite and ambition. Or Fantasia to try to reinvent the wheel of it again. But as a movie, this is some good shit.
I would say that strongest point was it nailed the tone it was going for. Mm-hmm. 100% of the time.
Yeah, because like it's clearly made with, because this was in 1954. But if you wiped the date from my mind and asked me, like showed me the movie again and asked me when it was made, I would have said sometime like mid 60s to mid 70s. Mm-hmm. That's what I would have said.
I was thinking 70s too.
Yeah, like 70s was around the time that like they were making Superman by that point. So like it was a little bit more modern, but I could definitely see this as like early 70s or like 70s with more traditional old guard filmmakers.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, the special effects, they held up so well.
And you know why? Because it's miniatures, like masking tricks, and animatronics. Like that's the thing. CGI is very, very useful nowadays, but it will never give you that sense of wonder that a physical effect can give.
And eventually it will show its age.
Mm-hmm. The helicarrier in the Avengers is really fucking cool. But it doesn't, and it made my jaw drop the first time. I don't know how many times I've watched the Muppet movie from the 70s, but anytime I see Kermit riding a bike and knowing that they had to do it for real, I still have my jaw hit the fucking floor. Even though I know how they did it. In fact, the fact that I know how they did it makes it more impressive.
And like, what a way to open a movie.
Mm-hmm. And then, like, in the next Muppet movie, which I think we'll probably watch here sooner or later, because I think it's about time for some Muppets, they do something that just escalates that. They're like, we did it this way this time, let's do it more. Yeah, so this, it's a lot of practical effects, a lot of like old school visual effects, blue screening, masking, all that stuff. And some of it does show its age. Like sometimes when they're, in front of the viewing window in the Nautilus and some fish go there, I'm like, okay, I can definitely see that those were masked in, but it was done well. So I'm still like, very nice. Because I have After Effects. I know rotoscoping things into a mask is a pain in the ass. And they had to do it by actually fucking cutting it out.
But yeah, the special effects looked ahead of its time, and it still had that old movie feeling to it. Like, yeah. Scott said it wasn't the most fair comparison, because we talked about this a little bit before recording, where with Dracula, there was a real, like, slow intensity throughout that whole movie, and they nailed it with 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea as well. Yeah,
and the only reason I say it's not a fair comparison, because, she said, like, oh, yeah, it was very tense in Dracula, but it also, like, the whole movie just kind of felt slower and more plotting. And I'm like, the only reason I say that that's not a fair comparison is because that was one of the first talking movies. Like, one of the first that had full sound, voice, all that stuff.
But it was still a very good movie.
Oh, it was still, yeah.
It's still, I thought it held up just fine.
Mm-hmm. This one, I feel like it holds up even more.
Oh, 100, yeah.
Like, I still want movies to be filmed like this, in certain situations. Because it was a movie that had plenty of action. It had plenty of action sequences, had plenty of tense sequences. There was some mystery, some intrigue, and all this stuff.
Great character moments.
Yeah. But unlike most modern movies, and this is something that even, like, I love Marvel, but they're guilty of this too, for the most part. It's not switching camera every 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Like, not every conversation is shot reverse shot. Sometimes it's just both of them in a fucking frame for a whole scene, and it's the acting that carries it, and you don't get bored, because like you just are watching them do it. There's a whole sequence where they're underwater in scuba suits, and there's like nothing except for some gurgles, bubble sounds, and like ocean sounds and the soundtrack, but that's still interesting. But yeah, and that, like, before we go into the full plot, I'm gonna say once more, watch this movie.
Please,
watch this movie,
please.
watch this movie, watch this movie. There is a reason why I now know why this has kept coming up in my life. I kept hearing about it. Whether it was the ride based off of it, whether it was, the fact that its movie making skills is why Walt was like, I bet these movie making people could help me build that park. Like, if we didn't have this movie, we wouldn't have stuff like the Haunted Mansion. We wouldn't have stuff like Pirates of the Caribbean. We wouldn't have things like the Enchanted Tiki Room. We wouldn't have things like Expedition Everest. Even if the Yeti's broken. So I'm talking about the Yeti when it worked. Technically, the Yeti's not the thing that's broken. It's the structure that connected him to the mountain. Oh. If they kept making it move, the whole thing would fucking collapse.
Ooh.
Because it's cracked. But yeah, so this movie starts off like many Golden Age Walt Disney movies do with the book.
Oh,
like, it's just the book, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. It opens up to like the first page, and that's the setup. It just has, there's a bunch of ships. Like a lot of people don't even know where these ships are coming from. It's hard to identify. They don't seem to have flags. And they're exploding. And it's assumed that something is in the water in that area that is like destroying these ships and killing the crews.
And I thought it was really interesting because they kept saying sea monster, but when we get the first glimpse of it, I immediately caught on, like, this is mechanical.
Yeah, there's immediate foreshadowings. And it's interesting because you're like, okay, well, it's clearly something man-made, but it could still be a man-made monster, because it does kind of have like an octopus head.
Yes. Sort
of shape to it. It's got these glowing eyes, and you definitely, like, if you're paying attention, under the music, you can hear like the of an engine, but you're like, okay, so it's something. And if you know about 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, you probably can infer, oh, that's the Nautilus. But if you don't, then you're just like, okay, so I picked up on that it's probably a machine, right? Mm-hmm. And people back then might not have glanced at that, because it just wasn't as much of a... Although I guess the 50s sci-fi was coming around already, but, still. Especially when contrasted with a fucking old-timey warship. Mm-hmm. But, like, it just zooms through the water, crashes into the fucking thing, and the ship explodes.
Kaboom!
Actually, technically, the explosion happens in front of the ship, because I'm pretty sure the ship is just a half ship on a backdrop. I think I caught that several times.
Oh, okay.
There were definitely real warships. There were some where you could see that they had real warships in the water on location, all that stuff. But anytime there was something that was like, it breaking, they would do clever things like go under the water, and it's probably a miniature, or it would be all in one thing where you're only seeing half the ship, and and then it's like, oh, okay, well,
yeah, I didn't catch that at all.
Yeah, I think at one point, like when they were on top of the Nautilus, I'm like, pretty sure that's only half of the Nautilus. I think I can tell that it's like right up against the backdrop supposed to be the sky. That's not the movie's fault. That's the fault that we now have HD TVs, and this has probably been remastered a few times.
Yeah.
This is probably like the original fucking film that they've like treated and all this stuff. To get it at its highest quality. But yeah, so we cut from that. The warship exploding. And it just goes to a guy of like, there is no sea monster, but we do need more men. So, come on board. We'll pay you all this stuff. It'll be a good wage, blah, 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 blah. And then the other guy is like, look, a good wage don't mean shit if you're dead. All right? You can't use money when you're dead. Money's for the living. It's like, do you really going to risk your life for one paycheck to the next of kin? All this stuff? No, don't do it. Blah, 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 blah. And then we get our first character that we're going to be following throughout the movie. I forget his first name, but his last name is Land.
See, I don't know why I want to say Ned, but I don't think that's right.
It could be Ned Land, possibly.
Yeah.
But I think he's American. He is a harpooner, by trade. And he's just a wise ass. Like, he literally
comes in with a shitty green with his arms around two. Yep.
2 prostitutes hanging on his arms. And he's just like, oh, I'd actually like to see the sea monster. I could probably get a good bounty for it and all this stuff. Rabble rouses the, dude gets pushed into the mud. Then a whole fucking rocket shows up. The cops show up.
Yeah.
He gets hauled away. Like, they literally just fucking pick his ass up and carry him away.
He's not that big.
Yeah, he's not, but still, it's just like, whoa. they did that very smoothly. It's just,
Meanwhile,
like, okay then.
Meanwhile, elsewhere in town, we're introduced to a couple other characters.
A French professor who is the narrator of the film, and I'm pretty sure was probably Jules Verne writing Jules Verne. I'm just saying, the main point of view character is an intellectual French guy, and Jules Verne was a French author who probably considered himself learned because he constantly wrote in science fiction. I'm not faulting the guy. Write what you know. But and then he's got like a snivelly little assistant who is literally like, I think it's actually the guy who did the Blueberry voice. Because he sounds exactly like him. I kept wanting him to go like, yes, master. Yes, I get the squid. It's that voice. I don't know if it's the same guy, but it very much could be. And these two are trying to get to Saigon for like some kind of research expedition, but they get cornered by a bunch of tabloid writers and are just like, oh, do you believe in the monster? And it's like, well, I believe that there's a lot of fish that we don't know about.
Oh my god, he said he believes in the monster. Right to the press.
Ah! I'm like, good to know that things haven't changed in like over a half century.
Yep.
Misquote him intentionally.
Just twist the words around a little bit. We'll make this work.
Yeah. We need it for the ratings. I mean the buys.
And the professor sees this and he's like,
I said no such thing. What are they doing? Why? And then like literally a fucking G-man shows up. Hello, I work for the government. Would you like to get on a ship? We're hunting the sea monster. And it's like, well, I don't believe in the sea monster, but I do have an open mind. Well, the captain doesn't. And the assistant is like, no, professor, don't get on the ship. It is a waste of time.
I thought that wasn't the professor. I thought it was the assistant that agreed almost immediately. Like, yeah.
No, it was the professor.
Okay.
He's the one that agreed immediately because they agreed to drop him off at Saigon after it was done.
Okay.
Yeah. And the professor was the one of like, you aren't seriously going along with the charade. And it's like, well, no, I don't think that the sea monster is going to be real, but I mean, after 3 months, we'll get to Saigon. Fuck it. And so it's like, okay. And from that point on, all three of those characters end up on that boat. And yeah, they don't find shit. Well, they find dolphins and a whale.
They find bananas in Land's pocket.
Yeah, Land has like a ton of bananas in one scene. And
he has some sea shanties in his heart.
He has a sea shanty. He has the one.
He has the one. Yeah, you're right.
He's got like a little guitar or lute kind of thing. Actually, it might have been a mandolin. It was some kind of like, string instrument of the guitar family. And he like has this whole song number. If you've ever heard the song Whale of a Tale to Tell Ya Lad.
Got a whale of a tale to tell you, lads, a whale of a tale or two, about the flatland fish and the girls I've loved on nights like this with the moon above. Whale of a tale and it's all true, I swear by.
That's what it's from, and I knew that. I've seen that clip before, and it's a fun number.
Yeah.
Because it's like diegetic, like it's actually happening. It's not that thing where it's like, oh well, it's a musical number, but like the characters aren't actually breaking out into song. This is just like more to show the emotion, or the change in the environment or something like that.
No, the whole crew was singing along or just
or
enjoying
watching, clapping along. One guy joins in, like
with the
the professor comes up and is like, oh, this is whatever, blah, blah, blah. And, and it's like, I think kind of like meant to endear you to the crew, to Land, to the professor and all this stuff. Oh, they're just having a fun time. And then a ship explodes.
I'm thinking she went down with all hands. Poor devils. What could have caused such a fearsome explosion?
and they see something like swimming away from it, and they're like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit.
Sea monster.
Fucking fire the cannons. And so they finally hit it. The thing fucking turns around and starts ramming speed at him. Land tries to fucking harpoon it, but it just goes thunk, like off the side. And he's like, what the shit? And then he gets knocked over into a longboat. He goes overboard. Then the professor like literally fucking falls off of a higher thing, hits the side of the ship, and then goes careening into the water. I'm like, ooh, that looked painful. That looks painful, buddy. And then the assistant is like, no, my meal ticket. And like jumps in after. And like he's like, wait, no, I've got the professor. Come back. And it's like, dude, their engines are fucked. They can't do shit. And they just go drifting into the sea. And eventually, by pure happenstance, they come across an abandoned Nautilus. Like, it's just up there. Its door is open.
Which,
Well, to be fair, we see that it, like, has, reserve air measure, and it goes up while it's ticking. So it's, like, refilling its tanks.
Okay. Makes sense.
And also, they're also taking this moment to bury a member of the crew who apparently died when they got hit by the cannon. I don't know how, because we see both sides of the Nautilus and there's no fucking holes in it. Like, was the guy's head just like right against the wall and it just went toom?
died of shock.
Or maybe like it rocked the ship and something fell on him.
Yeah.
That could be. But yeah, somehow he died. And like while they're exploring the Nautilus, which my fucking god, it is so cool.
I would love to just do a walkthrough of the whole Nautilus.
If I ever see like a model kit of that version of the Nautilus, I'm fucking buying it. Cause yeah, it's like the steampunk thing. It kind of looks like a barracuda fish, and it's completely like bronze and copper with rivets in it. Mm-hmm. Looks like it was like, pieced together by a bunch of like Hatmeal parts, which I think is taking inspiration from the book, because I think the book describes it like that too. But yeah, so they're exploring the ship. Land shows up also. What a quinky dink.
He just really just kind of sailed on by, like, yeah. Oh hey guys.
Yeah, what's up? Hey, I know you. How's everybody else? Probably dead. And the professor realizes that, like, he sees this large viewing window, and he looks out it and sees that there's a bunch of people in these, like, scuba diving masks and, like, in equipment that look like a mix between stormtrooper armor and actual, like, old-timey scuba diving equipment, but it's standalone. It doesn't need, like, an oxygen pump. They just have oxygen tanks, which is pretty cool. And they're performing a burial. Like, they even have like a cross made out of coral.
Yeah, I'm like, how did they?
I don't
know. How did they make that?
It was pretty cool looking. I would not be opposed to my grave looking like that under the water, in a beautiful reef in the Caribbean waters. So, he witnesses that, and the others like go to where he is, and Nemo, upon going there, like looks up, sees that they're in the window, and is like, "Oh shit, there's somebody in there!" And it's like, "Oh,
let's get him, boys!"
Yeah, and so they try to escape, but some people like go up, and like Land immediately is trying to hit them with an oar. And meanwhile, like the professor is like, "Wait, hold on, let us explain," and all this stuff. And then Nemo just fucking like gets up back into the Nautilus and all this stuff, and it's like, "Oh hey, so you guys intruded in my ship." Not cool. And also, given the longboat there, I'm gonna assume you're part of the fucking crew that attacked us, ain't you? And it's like, I mean, to be fair, you attacked a warship first. I had my reasons for that. Why'd you attack me? I mean, we saw you attack the ship. Alright, you know what? I know you, Professor. You two you don't have anything to save yourself, so bye.
And the professor, being the decent dude that he is like, wait a second.
Hold on, this isn't very civilized. And basically Nemo is just like, I've had about enough of civilization, heavy air quotes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, I don't fucking play by that bullshit anymore. But if you want to join them, feel free. It'd be a huge waste of the scientific world, but you're very welcome to. Well, fine, I will. Was not expecting that. Okay. And going up. And so they're just kind of holding on to the mast. Nemo freaking starts taking down the ship, but stops. And it's just like, I've seen enough. Like, you know, they didn't try to beg for their lives. They accepted the punishment. I'll be lenient. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I'll be lenient. They're going to basically be half prisoners, half guests until, you know, we can fucking drop them off somewhere. You know, and so they're like, oh, okay, thank you. And it's like, oh, come here, eat. And he and they're like, oh man, is this beef? And it's like, no, it's actually, you know, ocean snake.
Food is delicious, isn't it, Professor?
Oh, very good. Never tasted better. May I ask how you are able to set such a table as this, Captain?
These dishes come entirely from my ocean kitchen. There is nothing here of the earth.
How remarkable. This tastes like veal.
The flavor deceives you. It is fillet of sea snake.
And like, two of them are like, oh, and the professor's like, I mean,
I'll eat
pretty
it.
good. I mean, it tastes like beef.
Oh, yeah, the assistant was being the absolute worst about it.
And then Land is like, nothing here is fit for consumption. I'm like, you were eating it just fine, dude.
Oh my god. I mean, I almost feel that from my soul. Did I ever tell you about the time? So my mom tried to trick me into eating fish sticks when I didn't like fish. She's like, oh, these are chicken nuggets. And I was eating them just fine.
How did you not notice immediately?
I don't know.
How did you not notice immediately by the different shape, the different texture, the different taste?
I noticed it was different, but I believed her for some stupid reason. And when my mom said it was fish sticks, I legitimately just ran off and cried.
Is this because you can't smell?
Maybe.
Because I do know there are some people who, if their sense of smell is bad enough, they don't get the full flavor palette on their tongue. Because it's like, it's a combo thing.
You're usually, you know what, that would make sense. You're usually better on picking up subtle things than I am.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wonder if that's why you were able. Also, it's possible you were a kid. You might have just been scarfing them fucking down.
I mean, that would be very true to my character as a kid.
It's like, haha, little fucker, those were fish.
You noticed that I'm a fast eater.
It's like, that was chicken of the sea.
So she thought the whole thing was hilarious.
Yeah, I'm sure she did. And I'm sure it was. Like, I'm sorry. I am very sensitive to kids being upset. Because I remember how I felt when I was a kid and I was upset. AKA, oh god, nothing will ever be okay again. You know? And like, also, you know, I was upset, thought that, and now I've grown up to be a person with anxiety and depression. So in my primal lizard brain, I'm like, no, if I can stop a kid from ever being sad, they won't develop this, even though that's not how it works at all. But sometimes when a kid is like sad, upset, or angry for a reason that's just so stupid, I can't help but laugh.
I mean, and it's also a good insight to how I've just always been a sensitive little crybaby.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so like, and the funny thing is that whole time I was on the side of the professor. I'm like, fuck it. I mean, if it tastes good, it tastes good, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's eating it too. It's clearly not poison.
Yeah, nowadays I'd be on Team Professor. Like,
yeah.
Well, I've been eating it, so
yeah, fuck it. And the only thing that I thought was questionable was like the milk of the giant sperm whale.
Mm-hmm.
Because of two reasons. One, how did you milk that thing? Like, whales are fucking huge. They're usually constantly on the move. Like, how would you have captured that thing and milked it? Like, and two, it's called the sperm whale, and it's a white viscous liquid. I'd be sus. I'd be like, hold on here, buddy. You take some first.
Are you just feeding this to us for the lulz?
Yeah. But yeah, everything else, I'm like, it looks fine. You know, it looks great. And I love seafood too. So, and also, like, the other guy's a sailor. You'd think he'd eat a decent amount of seafood. You'd think on long voyages they'd have to restock their, fucking pantry by fishing. Fucking picky ass bitch. But yeah, and the like assistant is just like, oh no, most unorthodox. And the professor's just like, fuck it.
It's very good. In fact, it's better than lamb.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, like that's not fruit. That's actually, sea cucumber infused with other flavors. It's like, oh, well, fucking shit.
Yum.
And so the assistant and Land go back to their quarters, and Nemo is talking to the professor. And it's just like, oh, I know a shit ton of shit. Like, I have discovered many scientific things. There's so much that the ocean can give, and I'm willing to share it with you if you prove that humanity is worth it. Because I do not have a good opinion of anyone outside this ship. Or the other two. And it's like, well, I have utmost faith in humanity. For I am the person who is the point of view character, and thus I am smart but naive. And so it's like, he proves that he knows a ton of shit. Because it's like, oh man, like, there's this power source, which they don't explain what it is, but like you need, a visor to see it because it's so bright and like it produces a lot of heat and stuff. And I'm like, did this motherfucker invent fusion? Or fission?
What did they call it? Like the power of the universe or something?
The power of the universe, which makes me think atomic. Mm-hmm. Like the power of the atom. So it's like, this motherfucking ship is nuclear? Good lord, that makes any time it gets attacked so much more terrifying. Also explains the explosion at the end. Motherfucker had nukes. Yeah, so like he has this. Meanwhile, it's like, oh, well, we're about to go on an expedition to get more food. And it's like, now that's what I'm talking about. I'll join that, says Land and the assistant too.
When do we start, mate?
Captain? Almost immediately. These two will join the expedition. Will you prepare them?
Aye, sir.
But of course, it's underwater expedition. Land and the assistant go off to fucking try to get pirate treasure. And the professor and Nemo are like, oh, look at all the cool shit. Meanwhile, there's these poor turtles being led into the Nautilus to die.
They looked so sad.
They looked so concerned. But, yeah.
Land and the assistant, while underwater on the little expedition, find some treasure.
They do find treasure. They find a ship. And a shark finds them. And now here's something, like, because it's pretty obvious that sometimes it's like an animatronic or some kind of thing that's, with the actors, and then other times it's a real shark that's, being shot, reverse shot. And Nemo shoots it, and it starts to bleed as it, like, swims away. I'm like, okay, so was that a man-made shark that they, like, made, kind of like the octopus later, or did they just actually fucking make a shark bleed? It's 1954. There were no rules.
Yeah, I mean, I would hope.
They're leading turtles away by the hand. They don't give a shit. And it's like, you fucking left the expedition, Land. Why? And it's like, because I wanted fucking treasure. It's like, treasure? That shit's worthless. I got a whole fucking room of treasure.
Which, I'm like, they should not have told Land that.
Yeah. And so Land, of course, he's like, oh shit, I'm gonna steal that fucking treasure.
When you go downstairs, Sea Puppy is all like, hello, bork, bork.
Yeah, Nemo has a pet seal named Esmeralda, who is so goddamn adorable.
Oh my god, one of the best characters.
Cute little flipper pup. Borf, 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 borf. And like at one point sings along, while Land is playing a song and all this shit. So like Land is trying to like steal some treasure and just fuck with everything. The assistant is kind of fed up with the professor getting chummy with Nemo. And kind of joins Land's side. And meanwhile, the professor and Nemo are just kind of being like, oh, you don't seem to like humanity much, do you? And it's like, no, they fucking took everything from me. And eventually they get to an island, and it's like, all right, go look there. And it's like, oh, what is that? Wait, what? Those look like slaves. But slavery's been abolished. It's like, yeah, you'd think, but not here. I was one of those people there, and I can't remember if he was implying that he was one of the people running the slavery or one of the slaves.
I thought he was one of the slaves.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. Especially because, like, I don't think you can really tell in this rendition, but in the books, he's Eastern Indian.
Mm-hmm.
Like, meaning not white. So, obviously, in an old Victorian book, he counts. He's going to the trade, which sucks. But he's like, oh man, some people helped me escape. They became my crew. And all of these guys, like, they're forcing them to harvest materials to make weapons. Black powder, other elements. And if it gets out, if it gets to the mainland, everyone's gonna fucking die. Like, that's why I'm destroying these ships. It's only these ships. I'm not killing wantonly. I don't even want to kill, but this is the only way. And the professor's like, no, there's got to be some other way. We can go to the mainland, get it abolished. And it's like, and in that time, they'll get to the mainland and it'll be too late. No, I just have to stop them, And so, like, he's playing his organ, which is now in the Haunted Mansion, to kind of, like, get himself hyped up and, like, vent the fact that he's going to have to kill more people. Like, and you can see it on his face. He is of two minds about it. He's like, I need to do this, but I really don't want to fucking do this.
Yeah, like, that whole scene was very...
Like, his face is sweaty. You can see, like, tears in the eyes.
Acting was so good.
Oh, it was so good. I wonder if the guy could actually play the organ and, like, that helped him get into it, because, like, all of the movement. He goes back up to the helm, crashes the ship, and, of course, the professor, being an idiot, has not explained everything to Land and the assistant.
Yeah.
Didn't explain shit. Like, didn't explain that, they're slavers, that they are, like, carting weapons illegally, like, that they're essentially pirates. So Land sees that and is like, those guys were sailors like me. Like, you're a fucking traitor. You're siding with Nemo. So now there's a rift between them. The assistant, like, is like, you're becoming much like Nemo. And all this stuff. So there's a rift between them now. They keep separating, their dynamic. As the professor grows closer to Nemo, basically trying to be like, yo, there is a better way. Land and the assistant have basically given up on that. And they're just like, fuck it. We're going to steal some treasure. We're going to get the fuck out of here. And then we're going to, like, go report Nemo and come back for the professor. He's been brainwashed,
Mm-hmm.
And eventually, like, they get to some dry land, and it's just like, oh man, can we go explore the beach? And it's like Land and the assistant do that, and Nemo is like, yeah, just don't leave the beach. And it's like, oh, why would we leave the beach? And it's like, well, you wouldn't if you don't want to get hunted by cannibals. And Land, of course, is like, oh, there's no such thing as fucking cannibals.
Pshaw.
Yeah, and the assistant is like, I mean, Nemo's kind of an asshole, but he hasn't abjectly lied any time that we can know of, at least.
He's just trying to scare us.
I'm not fucking leaving the beach, dude. All right, well then I'll come for you later.
All right, shake hands. Talk to you soon.
Yep, it's like I'll come back for you and the professor. We'll get him sorted out. And of course, he runs into fucking headhunting cannibals.
Yep.
Which are, like, so racist, I'm pretty sure. Because, granted, I don't know what tribal people of a, Caribbean-ish island would be. I'm not exactly sure where this is supposed to be, but it's some tropical island. But they look like fucking Zulus. Like, fucking African Zulus, as in Shaka of. And like if you've ever seen the native headhunters in the Jungle Cruise, that everybody's like, wow, that's really fucking racist. Those. It's exactly those. Same outfits, same headdresses, same style of shields, spears, like war paint. It's all the same. And Like, they're just screeching, hollering, chasing him away. They chase him to the Nautilus, and Nemo electrocutes them. Not to death. He doesn't kill the natives.
Just enough to scare him away.
Yeah. He's and of course, like, they have the natives be like, oh, what is this? All this stuff. And I'm just like, you have boats. It's a boat. It's a different kind of boat. I'm sure you could
figure it
put
out.
2 and 2 together. When I was like fucking 2 and I saw a battleship, I'm like, oh, this one's lower. It must be under the water. That's a different type of boat. Come on. But he gives them a little electric shock on the top of the ship, forces them, to leave. And by this point, Nemo is pretty understandably just fed up with land shit. It's like, look, I tried to be lenient with you, land, but you keep disobeying my orders. You keep trying to, sow dissent amongst your friends. You keep trying to fucking, undermine me. You fucking, invaded on their land. Got us into trouble with them because of it. No, fuck you. You're going into the brig. And it's like, what the brig? What have I, what? Meanwhile, before that, when he had more leniency, he had snuck into Nemo's quarters, figured out where Vulcania, Nemo's island, was, and put it into a bunch of bottles, and just, threw them out the submarine. And because of that, when they make it to Nemo's island of Vulcania, where all of his secrets and stuff are, they're ambushed. There's a bunch of warships, and Nemo's like, shit, all this stuff. Land immediately is like, hey guys, I'm the one who sent the letters. Don't shoot at me.
Pew, 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 pew.
Oh, who could have seen this coming? I never would have thought the leopards would eat my face. Fucking colonialism is evil. No. And so they start shooting, they start blasting, the thing. Nemo gets shot through the gut, is bleeding out, takes the submarine down after blowing up Vulcania, or setting it up to blow up. And they just it's like, all right, well, we are taking the Nautilus down to the bottom of the ocean, and we're all gonna die here.
And pretty much the whole crew is like, okay.
Yep. Yeah, we figured this might be how it ends. We knew what we were signing up for. And Land is, of course, like, well, I didn't fucking sign up. It's like, no, you're just the fucking cause of why we're all dying, dick. And it's like, you think I didn't hear when you said, I'm the one who sent the letters? No, I heard it. You're an asshole. And, so Nemo is there dying. And Land busts out. He takes the ship back up while Nemo is dying, and he goes over to the window and is looking at the ocean for a last time before he dies. And the professor, assistant, and Land, along with the Esmeralda the seal.
Hey, we forgot Esmeralda. Come on, quick. Come on. Hurry. In the boat. Come on, in the boat.
She jumps onto the longboat, and they get out of there and look back to Vulcania, and it just fucking explodes.
It just kept going and
Yep.
going and going.
And we leave the movie as the Nautilus is sinking into the depths, its secrets forever to be lost, with not Nemo's last words, echoing, which is mankind is not ready for these secrets, but someday they will be, when they, choose to live a better life.
There is hope for the future. And when the world is ready for a new, better life, all this will someday come to pass. In God's good time.
And, it's kind of like that prescient thing of we could be so much further ahead if we would just stop being assholes, And that's basically the movie. And we were both like, whoo! And basically at the same time, I said, man, Land was a dick. And Kat said, man, Nemo was a dick. And we were like, what?
What? Now, we already said this before, but our Scott's very, very quick summary of the movie doesn't do the movie justice.
No, this
Go
movie
watch
is
it.
2 hours and 7 minutes, and it doesn't feel like it. It feels like maybe an hour tops. Like, it's that kind of movie where it's so long. Like, 2 hours, 7 minutes, that's a good amount of movie, especially for something in 54. Mm-hmm. But, like, my God, is it worth it? If nothing alone for just the pretty locations. Imagine all the stuff that they filmed for Pirates of the Caribbean and all those tropical waters, but in the saturated Technicolor of a 50s movie. So it's not desaturated like Pirates to try to make it match the grungy appeal of that movie. Oh, so pretty. And it's just a good story, has a good lesson to it, has some action. I mean, I don't even think I talked about the giant squid.
Oh yeah, we completely overlooked that.
Yeah, there's so much in this movie. I forgot about that. A giant octopus attacks at one point, and like they have to surface. This whole fucking thing, happens where like people are getting killed and the crew and all this stuff. Like, they eventually fight it off, and while they do, Land takes a knife out, cuts one of the tentacles off, and saves Nemo, which is why he had some more leniency around the middle of the film and fucked over the Nautilus. So, he kind of had like a boon from Nemo for a second, and he just completely fucked that up. But as I just alluded to, me and Kat came away with very different opinions of who like the protagonist is of this movie.
Well, I don't think your interpretation, I mean, I understand what your interpretation of Nemo and like what his role is. Mm-hmm. I get where you're coming from, but I still, at the end of the day, I still think he's a madman.
Well, he's definitely a madman. So is Batman. So is the Punisher. So is anyone who picks up the good fight against all odds. So what if he's crazy? The best people are. That's a quote from Alice in Wonderland. But yeah, no, he's absolutely mad. But at one point in the movie, you find out that once he escaped, and like he got all these secrets and stuff like this, they recaptured him, tried to get him to tell the secrets. He didn't, escaped again, and so instead they went and found his son and wife and tortured them to death. No, fuck those guys. They die. Like, they're trying to explode the world, and now I have a personal vendetta against them. They're getting Punished. They're getting Frank Castled. I'm sorry. They are. Like, and that's the thing. Like, is what he's doing murder? Yes. So is any soldier who shoots an enemy soldier. Like, and yet everyone just makes excuses for soldiers, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, yeah, sure, they had to do those horrible, horrible things, but they were doing it for their country. They were doing it for world peace, air quotes. They're not killers, they're heroes. First off, you can be both. Second, they're killers. Like, they are trained murderers. That is what a soldier is at the end of the day. At least a frontline infantry person, you are trained to pick up a gun, point it at another human being, and end their life. That's an evil action that you are taking. There's no excuse for that. Is it sometimes a necessary evil? Yes. But that does not absolve you of it. You are still guilty of murder. Even if it's justified.
There had to have been a better way to go about it, though.
What do you think the better way would have been?
Getting some more authorities involved.
He tried that. He got captured again and tortured. Clearly, he must have went to someone for them to find him again. So,
see, like, I must have completely missed that part because I didn't know.
And also, like, we don't know who those people were working for. What if the authorities, like, the Navy, what if that was a black hat operation for the navies? Or one of the navies at least. Whichever one that he would have went to because, of wherever he's from. Not to mention, like you said, he's a goddamn madman.
I guess
he's a mad genius, a scientific visionary, and someone who's been tortured and beaten and, probably left for dead at some points. And he doesn't trust other people. So, in his mind, going to an authority is a non-option. I'm not saying that he did the right thing. I'm saying he did as right of a thing as his brain was still capable of doing.
And I can agree with that. I just don't like what I don't like the choice that he made.
Yeah. So he's definitely not a hero, but I would at least say that he is an anti-hero, right? Or a tragic hero, something more along the lines of a like a Greek heroic archetype.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the good man pushed too far.
Yeah. At the end of the day, like with Nemo, I guess I was trying more defending Land's actions because of
the great song.
No, not because of the great song. He's just a dude. He wanted off the ship. He didn't want to be any part of this. They weren't like, it's just in his temperament. His temperament like just makes him stubborn and not want to cooperate. But like they could have at any time they could have just dropped him off somewhere and give him what he wanted.
What was the first thing he would have done when getting back to civilization? He would have let the whole fucking operation go. Like, he wouldn't have kept his goddamn mouth shut. He would have been like, okay, sea monster, it's a man-made ship. The person is called Nemo. He's got Professor whatever his face is and his assistant. We gotta go kill him. Now, granted, I think the one fatal flaw that Nemo did is that he didn't trust Land with the knowledge of why he was doing this.
100%. Because with Land giving away where Nemo's island is, that was just an act of desperation. He had no other options. Mm-hmm. And I 100% understand why he did that. It didn't work out in his favor, no, but what else was he supposed to do? He didn't know what was going on.
Yes, I will definitely agree. He is probably, in that moment just thinking about their survival, but also he's throwing that shit out of the submarine with a shit-eating grin on his face. He's taking satisfaction in the fact that he's fucked all of these people over. Like, compare that to when Nemo is having to do what needs to be done in his mind, taking out that ship, and he looks absolutely devastated by having to do that. He doesn't wear a smile. Even after it's done, he doesn't take any pride in the satisfaction that he took that weapon off of, the earth. He is still grim-faced. He doesn't like that he had to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think that's why I speak more, like, I relate more to Nemo. Because I can see myself in Nemo's actions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I would like to think that if driven that far, when I break and go mad, I would become like that. Still trying to do the right thing. Even if marred by vengeance and sanity or just, an absolute loss of the faith of humanity. But I know that Land isn't a completely terrible person because Esmeralda trusts him.
Sea doggo.
Seals are basically just sea dogs.
Sea doggo.
So clearly he can't be all bad.
No. There's some good in him, but he was just driven in a really, really bad corner.
Yeah, he's a selfish bastard, is what he is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's just why, like, I don't think either character are necessarily heroes. I think the closest person to a hero is the professor, and he does nothing.
He just kind of sits there and listens.
Yeah, he's much the Victorian hero. Kind of like how, for most of the fucking book and movie, Jonathan Harker, or Harkness, I forget, from Dracula, does fucking nothing. Aside from listen to what happened, and talk to Van Helsing about, like, what, a vampire? Are you sure? Yes, it's a vampire. But really, though? Like,
yeah.
He just turned into a bat, John. That could mean anything. Yeah, so your case for Land is more just like you kind of see his actions as, like, understandable, I guess?
Yes.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, like, of course we can't really know what we would do in any given situation until the situation happens to us.
I mean, you got a pretty good glimpse of how I react in bad situations when I hit wood.
Yeah, not like Land, though.
No.
No, you don't, like, try to make the best of it for your own self-intentions. You curl up in a ball and cry and make me do it. She hit an owl with a car. He lived.
It's fine.
He lived. But like, I don't know, it just again, some of the things I can kind of understand in isolated incidents, but just all of them put together just kind of makes me see him as an asshole. Which is a shame, because I think he is supposed to be the hero. I mean, he was on, like the Disneyland show in an interview, like, oh, here's how we did the effects for 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea by me, the hero of the story, and all that stuff. So I think he is just supposed to be like a roguish hero. But I think they just went a little bit too far roguish. Like, dude's literally trying to steal all this trash while hiding it in a loot made out of the spine and shell of a turtle.
Yeah.
Poor thing.
Aww.
And he steals all of Nemo's alcohol.
Yeah.
What a dick. So yeah, I think that's it for us this time, guys. So if you like this series, please, wherever you're watching it, via YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, any other place that you're seeing this, please, if there's reviews, leave us a good review if you think we're doing good. If there's comments, do comments. Subscribe if that's an option. Like if it's on the YouTube channel, subscribe. If it's a thing where it's like, oh, subscribe to the podcast, please do that. Because all of that stuff helps us get noticed by more people, which in turn can help us move pieces ahead to make this show even better for both us and you. So like that's a way that you guys can help us to make this show better. Mm-hmm. And I would really appreciate that, because I like doing this show. I like editing it, putting it out there, recording it. All of this is like extremely fun, and I would love to make it a more major thing, right? Otherwise, if you want to see some other stuff that we've done, we have a YouTube channel called Kingdom of Geekalon, where you can find episodes of this podcast, as well as a travel vlog eventually when, fucking Kovalovid stops being such a pain in the ass. We plan to make more of those whenever we can. We've got, some random videos that I just put together, to be funny. We've got lots of gameplay videos that are, kind of in the same vein. Sometimes we do an older thing that Kat doesn't know about. Actually, a lot of the games Kat doesn't know about.
I mean, there's a lot of things I don't know about.
Yeah. But, we have fun playing those games. And, we ramble on about stuff there too. So you'll be familiar. Like, you'll be right at home. And then we've both got like Twitter and Instagram. My Twitter and Instagram are both MutagenWorks. Usually what I post is like a little webcomic based on Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. So if you're a fan of Pokemon gaming or just webcomics, come check out mine. Sometimes I post other art or random little tidbits. Yeah.
For my social media on Twitter, I'm Cat27. I do have an Instagram, Cat's Crochet Creations. If you're interested in seeing some silly geeky shit as crochet projects, please go check us out on Instagram.
So that's where you can see our stuff. So other than that, I think that's it for us.
All right, I'm Kat.
I'm Scott.
And we are
out of the ice.
Yep. See you guys next time.